Hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is July 20th, 2023. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Overall, today has been a good day. It's Thursday, so vibes are good. I will say though, I don't know. I had this like kind of like streak throughout the day of just kind of like either feeling like anxious or like I don't know, just kind of like a bleh feeling. But sometimes I've realized like organization can sometimes help in a lot of these kind of moments where I was anxious about a couple of things, but one thing was like money, and I just realized like Isaiah, like you do have a calendar, like you can check and then look and then do your little math thing. I know you don't love math, but you can figure this out. And I literally just took another glance at the calendar, realized I had fretted about this like last weekend, and I'm like, okay, just relax. So I don't know. For me, I feel like a pro tip is always like, hey, try to be as organized as you can. Every little bit helps, and it can definitely kind of clamp down on maybe some confusion or anxiety sometimes. And hey, I'll take whatever little bit of help I can get. But that being said, yeah, today was good. Can't say I've eaten too much, sadly. Man, at this point, I miss treats. I've realized that I really miss candy. I miss just eating whatever the fuck I want. Like I still do. I still eat my things in terms of like my one big meal a day. And on the weekends I cut loose a little, but this whole cut back, scale back thing has really just not been cute. And I think the worst thing is, I'm having the typical woes or issues where you hop on a scale kind of expecting to get some reward for your effort, and it's the same thing. And it's like, man. But I do remind myself that like some of the choices I've kind of been making recently are more lifestyle based than anything else. Like I just don't want to gain weight, and I think that at least what I'm doing is stopping that. So I'm trying to remind myself of that. Like the grand master plan is hopefully still going off without a hitch. You know what I mean? Got to give myself some flowers where I can, and that I am proud of myself for just saying, hey, I'm gonna cut these things out, and so far I've really held to that, and I feel good about that. And that's a W. Not to say that it'll feel like a setback if I decide to eat a bag of M&Ms, but hopefully when I do that, I'll be at a place that I'm like, wow, I've really made some progress. I'll allow myself this little extra little treat. But we're not there yet, and hopefully I can keep this going. And I guess that's a bit of an update on that. My I don't want to say weight loss journey. That feels so fucking whack. That's some Biggest Loser ass shit, and I'm not one of them. Not that I have any beef with anyone who's been on that show, or that kind of like idea of like, yeah, I really want to make a big dramatic radical change, and then they go for it. Like, no, by all means do those kind of things. I don't know. I'm getting in the weeds and we're just starting. But speaking of weeds, I'm gonna go ahead and do my classic startup, and then I'm gonna get into some like, I hate to say it, but this is a hardcore episode a little bit. It's a little bit. But we're gonna get through it. We're gonna march along. All right. All right. From BBC News, Manipur, India outrage after women paraded naked in violence hit state. So I definitely want to put a trigger warning up top. Gonna be talking about subject of sexual assault, abuse. Sally, gotta get into this on the top of this episode. But a woman showing two women being paraded naked by a mob in the northeastern state of Manipur, hit by violent ethnic clashes, has sparked outrage in India. Police say they have opened a case of gang rape and arrested a man, adding that others will be held soon. On Thursday, Parliament session in Delhi was disrupted as lawmakers demanded a debate on the issue. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also said the incident had shamed India and that no guilty will be spared. I assure the nation the law will take its course with all its might. What happened with the daughters of Manipur can never be forgiven. Those are strong words, and obviously appreciate the sentiment. There's, but something I didn't cover with Narendra Modi because it just isn't big news. I'm less on covering like big visits for real, unless it's like Biden because I'm an American, But he came to the White House. He was doing his shit. I think he like taught Biden some yoga or some shit. I don't fucking know. They did some glad handing, but on May 4th is when this shit happened. So like, I'm very well sure and certain that this had already been a known issue and a known thing, but it wasn't until the video was released and went viral that, oh, now we have to do something. Now we need to actually act. And now you're getting this speech about the daughters of India, the daughters of Manipur. And I don't know, Narendra Modi, it's hard for me to, I guess, put into words, and I don't want to get off the rail, in the weeds, off the rails here, but he's not my guy. I have tomatoes for this man. But now's not the time to throw him. At the end of the day, though, I feel like this is just a very bad systematic issue, and it does get into ethnic clashes between two groups, the majority Meitei group and the Kuki tribal groups. Now, the Meitei groups, they are the majority, and that was like more or less the men in that group, in that party, that was doing all this fucking depraved fucking shit. And it was the women, these Kuki women, who were being abused. Now, I believe there was also another woman who was off camera that was like forced to strip, I believe, that's alleged. Also, that this video had taken place after they had already burned down this Kuki village and had beaten two men. I believe a teenager and then also like a middle-aged man. So, I mean, this is just, it's so much, and this is more or less was going to be something that was just not going to be a big deal until it became a big deal. Now, obviously, as an American, as a black man, I've seen this happen in my country a lot, in terms of just like how, you'll see an act of violence against a minority group, and unless it gets recorded and blown up on Twitter or something, then sometimes it just doesn't get covered. And literally the perpetrators don't get arrested. Things of that nature. So this didn't feel too abstract to me, sadly, but just the level of depravity was just really sad. Obviously, this is just one instance of it. At least 130 people have died and 60,000 people have been displaced by this kind of violence. So I mean, it's a bit too little, it's a bit too late in terms of seeing this government reaction. Obviously, you take what you can get, but just a really sad state of affairs. Something I saw and I wanted to talk about, wanted to cover. But yeah, we can move on to some other stuff. Honestly, the rest of this episode, and I think another thing too is something I want to kind of talk about is I realize the theme of this episode is it's all international stories and all protests, because like I said, it was people actually getting out and saying, yo, this is wrong, this is fucked up, like we are standing in solidarity against this, and then the government's now saying like, okay, yeah, we'll arrest these people. And the rest of these articles are more or less just about protests kind of going on in the Middle East. So let's go ahead and get into these. Protesters storm Swedish embassy in Iraq over Quran burning plan. Iraqi security. Sorry, I'm getting a little space. Iraqi security forces dispersed hundreds of demonstrators who stormed the main gates of the Swedish embassy in the Iraqi capital of Baghdad in response to police in Stockholm sanctioning another planned burning of the Muslim holy book, the Quran. Videos posted on social media showed a large number of protesters inside the Swedish embassy's perimeter, as well as black smoke and fire coming from the building. Security forces armed with electric batons chased protesters and used water cannons to disperse them and put out the fire, a security source told CNN. Excuse me. Now, in the process of this, several journalists were covering the protest. They were also detained by security forces, and at least one was beaten. Obviously, that's fucked. That's no good. As someone who at one point was an aspiring journalist, I'm always like, look, I feel very uneasy whenever I see a country do something to journalists, to try to stop journalism. Now, you could say heat of the moment, da 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 da, blah, 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 but like, it is almost every single time you know who's a journalist and who isn't. It's not a like a matter of like, oh, maybe they're an agent or an operative. Like, no, dude, you know what journalism is. You want to suppress it. That's what you're doing. That's just always the vibe. That's always the feel for me. So I'm always like, that's an ick. That's a bad thing. Don't do that. But in terms of the reason for why the protests were happening, that's where this puts me in a situation where I'm like, man, this is where it feels icky. It feels sticky. I understand that this was a response to a demonstration, quote unquote. I'm trying to think if I can find the person. Here we go. The planned protest in Sweden, which more or less was the spark of the protest that took place in Iraq over the Swedish embassy, which also I have to add too that no one was hurt in terms of like anyone from the Swedish embassy. They weren't hurt. The embassy, like a portion of it, I think was burned. But then at that point, I think people had realized, okay, we made our point. Plus, these guys got fucking stun batons. Like, this is fucking a Resident Evil game. Motherfuckers are Chris Redfield just fucking hitting motherfuckers up. So they got pushed back and, message kind of was received. But the reason for the season here, the planned protest in Sweden took place later on Thursday outside the Iraqi embassy in Stockholm. It was organized by Salwan Momika, an Iraqi national in Sweden who burned a copy of the Quran outside a mosque in Stockholm last month during the Muslim holiday of Eid al-Adha, in a solo that sparked outrage in Iraq and around the world. Ultimately, no Qurans were burned during Thursday's protest, according to videos seen by CNN. But footage showed two protesters kicking and partially destroying a Quran, and Momika stepping on a Quran and polishing his shoes with a picture of the Iraqi flag. Now this is where I get upset, really upset, because at the end of the day, I get the idea of maybe like, look, you're a dissident. You came from Iraq and you feel away. You're upset. You're anti. Cool. But like, what part of your protest is making any kind of real change? Like, you're doing that punk for being punk's sake, and I hate that shit. That shit fucking stinks to me. It doesn't do the world any good. Like, what is your message? What is your delivery? Like, I'm just a guy. Like, fuck this shit. Like, you're literally the fucking Calvin peeing on X thing meme. Like, I don't need that shit. It's useless to me. So, the idea of doing this, and like, well, I provoked a response, and I'm making a conversation. Like, I don't know. Like, it's not worth it to me. And do I support like the idea of like running into an embassy and trying to like burn it down? Like, no, I don't. I especially too, because what does that prove? What does that do? It doesn't do anything. But I do get the guttural response of like, look, like, this country, Sweden, is allowing this to happen. Now, Sweden's response, their counter is like, look, we don't approve this shit. We do not want Quran burnings. We don't support that. But we do support the act of an organized gathering. Like, you're allowed to have a public gathering. And that's what he asked for, and that's what he got. So, once again, to draw reference to another Western country, America, where I fucking live. The KKK, these fucking Klansmen, they are allowed, if they go through the right and proper channels, to like schedule a rally in the fucking like, you know, downtown city, and they are allowed to get away and do that. Does that make me happy? No, it fucking doesn't. It makes me very fucking upset. But at the end of the day, I do get how it is allowed. I understand how this fucking shit works. I also understand, though, that has a cause and effect. And granted, you know, in the situation where we're talking about, like, the KKK or, like, neo-Nazis or whatever, they want that shit. They want a reaction. For this guy, this Momini guy, I don't... I guess maybe he wants that kind of fucking... But it's just like, why do you want people to potentially get hurt? Why do you want that kind of violence? Like, what are you doing? What is the message that you're trying to send? Like, I'm all for protest. We stand that kind of shit if it's for a reason that actually does something positive. If not, get the fuck out of here with that shit. You know? Boo. Tomato to fucking mato, bro. I really don't feel like I have anything else to add on this. Nope. We can just keep rolling along. There's more to talk about. From NPR. Iran's morality police return in a new campaign to impose Islamic dress on women. Now, we haven't done much of an update since the death of Mahsa Amini. You know, the protests have been going on. They do actually have a stat here that definitely, like, you know, bummed me the fuck out. But the protests largely died down earlier this year following a heavy crackdown in which over 500 protesters were killed and nearly 20,000 detained. But many women continue to flaunt the official dress code, especially in the capital of Tehran and other countries. So, you know, the morality police are more or less making a comeback. You know, they're back in a big way, sadly. Really, this isn't surprising in terms of just, like, I've been listening, you know, they've been saying, like, look, this shit is just on pause in terms of, like, you know, the morality police, but we are still maintaining our beliefs. Like, you know, the clerics have been saying this, and more or less are just saying, okay, cool, now we're finally back in the habit. Let's get these guys out here to, you know, start correcting behaviors. And essentially they're saying, hey, you know, first is going to be a warning or a notification, and then you're going to, you know, go back to detaining people. Obviously, once again, it's something that I understand, that I have a very Western mindset, and I get it. It's like, you can easily say, well, you don't understand. Look, I get it. Like, from a religious perspective, I want people to have their religion, be able to, like, you know, have that. That's important. But, like, when your religion starts like enforcing on other people, that's just fucked up. That's just no good. It makes me sad, and I'm always going to be against it. So, you know, obviously I'm glad that there are still people protesting and still fighting, but, like, the clampdown is just so severe. It's so intense. It's very disheartening, you know? And to know that these, you know, this, you know, morality police is going to be back in force, it's disheartening. It makes me, you know, sad to know that probably the cycle is just going to continue on again. Let's see here. Something else I wanted to read from this article. Late Saturday, police arrested Mohammed Siddiqui, a young and relatively unknown actor, in a raid on his home that he appears to have broadcast on social media. Earlier, he had posted a video in response to another online video showing a woman being detained by the morality police. Believe me, if I see such a scene, I might commit murder. And essentially for that, they said, dude, we are fucking breaking your door down. So, you know, they'll probably say, hey, he made a threat against the state or whatever. And, you know, who knows what they're going to do with that, you know, in terms of, like, sentencing. It just bums me out, man. I don't know. I get it. Like, I definitely don't ever want to step on anyone's toes when it comes to religion or anything like that. But, like, when you have a government trying to regulate their own people like that, that shit does break my heart. That shit is a fucking bummer. So I just always feel like the least I can do is talk about it. You know, maybe I don't give the best coverage on it, obviously, but, you know, it's the least I can do is at least say, you know, hey, I'm gonna bring it up. I'm gonna talk about it. So you get to hear about it on your drive to work, or over the dinner table or whatever. I don't know when you listen to me. Let me know. That'd be cool. I always like knowing that, like, hey, I listened to you on my way to work. Like, that's just fucking dope, bro. All right, we have one. Oh, sorry. We have one more thing to cover. Yet again, more protesting. Middle East, Afghanistan this time. It's gonna be from Al Jazeera. But before we get to it, it's break time. It's break time. I don't. That will not be making the album. Sorry. Ooh. Ugh. Whew. Whoo-wee. Okay. Deep breaths. Work, food, freedom. Afghan women protest beauty parlor ban. Now, this is something that I feel like I've been kind of hearing about via like BBC, but kind of just like in the Iran situation, like, look, we're rolling it out. This is happening. Like, yeah, we let you know, but here it is. Boom, boom, boom. Security forces in Kabul, I know how to pronounce that. God damn it. Have dispersed a demonstration by dozens of women protesting against a Taliban order to shut down beauty parlors, the latest curb to squeeze them out of public life. Security forces used fire hoses, tasers, and shot their guns into the air to break up the protest in the Afghan capital on Wednesday. I listened to some of this, like I listened to a clip, and it was so fucked. Like, literally, you just have, a group of people that are protesting, and you just have, like, you just hear screams, and you hear the water. And the taser part, that was something I, had to read because I didn't, like, actually view the video. But, like, you could hear the shotgun fire. And I'm like, oh my God, are they shooting people? And it's like, no, they are shooting into the air. But you have to understand, like, look, you came out to protest. And it's literally like, they're saying, like, look, these people didn't even see us. They didn't even want to listen to us. We came out here to, like, to say what we wanted to say and, like, potentially negotiate. That they didn't want that at all. Like, that was not their intention at all. It was just straight up to suppress us. And, it is just, another ongoing battle that has been going on in Afghanistan. Obviously since, the Taliban have taken power, they definitely said at the top of it, like, look, we are not going to be, your daddy's Taliban. We're not your granddaddy's Taliban, okay? We're not doing that 90s shit. We're different. But surely, like, less than months went by that it's like, no, like, clearly you guys are trying to roll the shit back. And, here we fucking are, where it's literally the idea saying, hey, these beauty salons, they are just against Islamic Sharia. Like, it is against our law. You can't do this. And, the idea of, like, once again, we're talking about, I kind of breezed through it, but essentially the hijab law is what, the morality police were trying to enforce here. And in the Iran situation, it's also here in the situation in Kabul with the salons. Essentially, you're saying, like, hey, you guys want to have wigs, hair extensions, eyelashes, like, these are all things that are against what we believe. You can't have it. And not to mention, it is a financial burden when it comes to weddings. It's just a financial burden on poor families in general. We are outlawing this. We are banning it. But it is yet again another ban on Afghan women who, like, they need this livelihood. They need this job. Just like anyone in the world, like, you have to work to live. And in the situation where they're literally saying, like, hey, you're not allowed to work, like, just go back home. And it's like, but I am the breadwinner of my family. Like, what are you saying? Like, in situations where a husband might be disabled, is not able to work, if there's no husband, there. Like, what are you talking about? I have to work to provide for my family. What am I going to do now? Like, we've talked about this before, where it's like, at least I believe we have. Like, I know it's been a little bit, but they essentially cut women from being able to work in non-government organization, NGOs. So you can't even do UN work to disperse food. And it's like, well, what do you mean? So, like, that means only men are going to be handling this food, and it's only going to be who they say are going to get it. Like, whereas meanwhile, there are literally women here who are like no families, who have networks here who can also be helpful. And it's like, no, you can't, stay home. And it's like, this is the kind of shit that is so repressive to me, that it's like, I get it. I do not want to step once again on the toes of a religion. I understand, but you are suppressing people's right to life. Like, you can't do that shit. That's just not okay. And when people come out to say, look, we are not okay with this as people, like, they aren't being violent, they aren't fucking burning anything, they aren't doing anything, and you meet them with such violence and aggression, no, like, that's not okay. Like, I know that not every protest is going to be a black and white thing, but, like, I'm definitely going to try to talk about as many of them as I fucking can, because that's usually where the fucking issues are. You know what I mean? It's usually where the shit that we need to be talking about, having, like, real fucking discourse over. You feel me? Not to belittle or besmirch anything. I mean, look, we can talk about this shit all day till we're blue in the face. That's what this shit is about. Shit, I'm just a podcaster. That's what I'm trying to do for a living. But that's really all I got for today. Let's see here. I got to chill for a little bit. Quick second. Hot minute. Isaiah News 1 at... No, wait, no. Oh, Jesus. Oh, man, I'm freezing up here. Let's start with the Gmail. No. Oh, no. I'm really just spaced out. Oh, no. Oh, no. The break got me finally. IsaiahNews1 at gmail.com. That's how you hit me up for feedback. Facebook, Twitter, all the socials. Those are there. Isaiah News Patreon. Oh my gosh, I guess I gotta look up my own Patreon. Man, I can't believe I'm this fried. That's crazy. But yeah, those are free ways to hit me up. Let's see if this loads. Oh my gosh, Patreon.com says Isaiah News. Oh man, oh man, what a flub. Hey, look, I'm not a perfect person. But if you subscribe to my Patreon, you become a newsie. And yeah, that's a thing. I shout you out. I'll say your name on the podcast. And yeah, those are all things. Patreon.com says Isaiah News. Jeezel Pete's. Man, what an L. What an L. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love you. Bye-bye. Mwah.